Joba, and welcome to Georgian Crossroads. This is Byrne, your host with the most here in Tbilisi, Georgia. Well, we've been kind of exploring the Caucasus a little bit, just one small section. The area, there's a little village of snow, which we're going to do today, and we've, driven up to Gergeti, the Trinity Cathedral. We've also driven out to Juta and spent a little time just walking beyond that in some absolutely majestic country. And today what we're going to do is we're going to check out the place that was my home base and why. Now, this episode is a secret. What I mean is this. I don't want a lot of people going to this little village. I don't want it ruined. I'm sure they could use a little economy, but truthfully, the people in the village don't seem to care one way or another about people coming there and spending time in snow. So I'm just showing you this. This is just for a few of you. And I'm absolutely serious about this. If I get more than 1,000 subscribers on this channel, I'm taking this video and putting it on unlisted. So it only shows up maybe in the playlist. In other words, I don't want a lot of people to find this. So if you're listening to this right now, consider this really unexpected Georgia. Well, Snow is a tiny little village. I don't know how many people. 400. That would probably max it out. It is worth... what's funny is that the guidebook, the Brat guidebook on Georgia, which is one of the best books on Georgia for traveling around here, basically says, there's like a fortress in the middle and some stone monuments and there's nothing much to do there. Well, yeah, but what does that mean, nothing much to do? What it means is it's a great place to relax. But more importantly, there actually is stuff to do there. It's just nothing touristy. There's no restaurants there. Oh my goodness, you have to drive a couple of kilometers to the nearest restaurant. There's no... There's no tourist facilities there. There's one teensy-weensy little store that has, kind of general store. A lot of cows, pigs, chickens. That's always decent. It's actually the place where Ilya, the patriarch of Georgia, who's now getting on in years, was born. And but the main thing I like about it is that it's near places like Stepan Saminda, which gets enough tourists when regular tourist season is on. But Snow, people, there's more people going to Juta. They're just going straight to Juta. And not that many people know about traveling these days. That is to say, they don't know about resting. The point of travel is not to go. The point of travel is to stop and look at things and ask, how did these things, what is my life about? And Juta is okay. It's great to go hiking, but there's facilities there, whereas Snow is the real thing, and I'm going to show it to you right now. By the way, if you hear some wind on the microphone, forgive me. There's a slight degree of wind coming up I can see right now. So the village of Snow is only, about 5 to 10 minute drive from Stepan Saminda. It's on the road to Juta, probably about 4 or 5 kilometers from the Georgian military highway, surrounded, as you can see, by green mountains everywhere. Juta's above 7,000 feet. So is Snow. Snow's probably a little under. But one of the things it's most noted for are these strange rock statues, busts, mostly, I believe, of important religious figures in Georgian history. I could be wrong on that, but that seems to be what I remember. In the background there, you'll see Mount Kazbegi on a beautiful day. I've never been up to Gergeti, to the Trinity Church there, and seen a full-blown view of Mount Kazbek from there. But the village of Snow, I really love this place. It's rustic in the extreme. I think there's only a couple of hundred people who live here. You can see looks like potatoes growing here, and potatoes are a crop that grows pretty well in Georgia. I'm going down a trail now from where my Airbnb was located. And yeah, there are animals, lots of cows, there are horses, and pigs. These three little pigs seemed to just want to communicate with me on some level. Interestingly enough, they all have rings in their snouts. Pigs being kind of obstinate, sometimes you have to pull them along, and I guess that does the job. Georgians, like Russians, like to eat suckling pig. These are probably a little bigger than suckling pig material, but not too much so. But it is quite a delicacy. I've only had it in America once, and that was a Russian person brought one in when I was a child. I remember that in California. Here's some chicks, all pecking away at some grain. And they will, of course, eventually be either egg layers or food. And this is the first of many stone walls we will be seeing. And I'm really, really, really impressed by these stone walls. There's just so much texture here. And there's these little ways between fields and such, all again lined with these stone rocks. Now, some of them are rounded, and that's because this was a glacial area, and glaciers have a tendency to round the rocks. And many of them, though, are flat, and some of them are quite sharp. And that's from the kind of, I don't know my rock formations as much as I'd like to, obviously some sort of sedimentary rock, but there's a lot of this sort of rock in the area, and they use this to create stone walls everywhere, and I find it fascinating. Now, I think there's only a couple of hundred people, maybe 200-300 people that live in Juta. It's a small village, but and they're not exactly, they don't come out in the streets and welcome you. Nevertheless, the more I walked around, the more I would get smiles from people, and I had the feeling if I stayed there a week or so, I would become pretty friendly with some of them. But immediately they kind of look at you like, who are you, as you're driving in, which they ought to, because who are you? You're invading this like little fortress of a town, and you're coming from outside. There's only one or two, maybe three Airbnbs in the town. There is a hotel slightly outside the fortress area. But as you travel through the town, this is the roads you drive on, and this is the main drag. This is where you would drive your car. So I find that it's quite, you can see all the cow business on the ground, we'll call it. But it's quite a nice little town. Now we're going to walk in a little further here and notice the fences and such. Georgians tend not to have open porches to the outside. They might have balconies hanging, but most of their life goes on in courtyards. Now here's a woman, a photograph I took of a woman just kind of sitting, waiting. I really respect the fact that she's just wearing an old black dress. Traditionally, when a woman's husband would die in Georgia, she would wear black till the end of her life. Now, this custom has been challenged these days, especially in Tbilisi. Nevertheless, it's a fascinating custom. Texture. This town, to me, I think what I love most about the town is the textures. Just so much of it. And if you've heard my, maybe you haven't, I have another channel, the Anadromist, where I did a whole lecture on textures. This just is perfect to me. We live in a world now starved for real textures. We have plastic and glass and steel.
dead textures, really. The screens are dead textures, but this is the real thing. These stone walls, I just wish I lived there just so I could use rocks to build fences like this. I suppose I could have done this in Alaska. We had similar kinds of rocks in different places, but I'd never seen it done quite like this before. And here's stones on the outside of a house. This was looking out. It just started to rain. In my last video, I was saying, yeah, the thunder is coming. Well, it finally did come. And I was in the house looking out at the rain. And there was a guy named Guja who lived there. He was staying there at the same time. Lived is the wrong word. He was actually from Tbilisi. But finally the night came after the rains left, and it was just so peaceful there. And that's why I love going there and staying there. It's my second time visiting snow. It's just so peaceful. And living in Tbilisi as I do now, it is not exactly a peaceful place, to put it mildly. But this is, as the evening was falling, I was testing different degrees of f-stops and ISO numbers and such. This was less successful, but it gives you an idea. But it was just quiet. Like I say, I'm on the edge of the town. But occasionally you hear a dog bark or cows moo or something. But apart from that, it was quiet. Very, very quiet. So I recommend going to snow, spending a couple of days, using it as a base to hike in Juta or to go to Stepan Saminda or Gergeti and the Trinity Church. It's just a great place to stop and get away. Stepan Saminda has a little bit of commercialism in it during a normal season, but there's none here. And this is the real thing. This is why you want to visit the Caucasus. And so in the morning I got in that sort of a Range Rover type thing there. Borrowed it from a friend. And then this is what it looked like first thing in the morning. You can see the fortress way off in the distance. And I was going to drive out, and but not before saying goodbye to a few cows who were just wandering around. Georgians generally don't fence their cows in. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. They do bring them back from the mountains, though. And the way I believe it works is one or two people, a group of men are responsible for bringing them out and taking them in. Although I did see young children doing it too, a couple of young girls. So, time to leave. These pipes you see overhead, I found out later, these are actually gas pipes from the old Soviet system. Kind of strange. One last look at the fortress of snow. As the sun is rising over the mountains. And a last look back at the village. You can see it setting here much better. And I was way in the back near the end. And time to leave. This way the road, there's the stone heads. And time to get back on the Georgian military highway and take off. We'll play a little Georgian flute music for you by David Kipiani here.
Well, okay. Now you have the secret. Snow. Don't tell anybody else. You can pass this video on to a few special friends. But like I say, I don't want to see a lot of people there. I want it to remain what it is. A very, very specific little village. And a great place to go for walks and to think and just to use as a base for your explorations in the area around Stepan Saminda, rather than going to the more touristed spot of Stepan Saminda. So, this is Byrne for Georgian Crossroads saying, keep the secret, and Nachwamdis. We will meet again.